Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Matthew Jones here from Harker Heights Ceramic Coatings. I got some questions about tipping that I'm hoping you can answer in the comments. Do you, as a client, feel pressured to tip often? Do you feel pressured to tip your detailer? As a detailer, if you're an owner-operator, do you expect clients to tip you, and do you give them the option to tip you? Let me know in the comments. Now, before I give you my 5 cents worth, which is 2 cents adjusted for current inflation, let's take a look at some of the statistics that I found on the internet. So most Americans say that expectations of tipping has spread to more and more places, 72% in fact. As I mentioned, 1 in 3 people feel pressured to tip according to Forbes. Now, what are some negative feelings people have towards tipping? They feel pressured, overwhelmed, embarrassed, guilty, confused, and uncomfortable. There's a lot of negative feelings. Now, there were some positive feelings associated with this study at Forbes where they felt compelled to give and they felt good about giving, but there also is a lot of negative reasons. Now, what would make somebody feel pressured or overwhelmed or embarrassed, guilty, confused, or uncomfortable? Let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced one of those emotions when given the option to tip. It could be at Starbucks. It doesn't have to be about car detailing necessarily, but if you've experienced one of these negative emotions, let me know what led you to feel that way. Now for me, I can tell you personally when I have experienced these. So I've experienced pressure to tip in an area where I thought maybe it wasn't necessary. For example, going to a convenience store or something and they offer a tip. I'm checking out, I don't feel like I should have to tip there. Another option would be, or another experience that I had was I would feel embarrassed and guilty in a situation where I was asked to tip or expected to tip, didn't think in advance that that would be a place that I was expected to tip, and maybe they only took cash for tips and I just didn't have cash on me. I rarely carry cash. And then, that kind of leads into confused and uncomfortable. It's similar is that, maybe you're confused, like, should I tip, should I not tip? And maybe that is the way you are with car detailing, or as an owner-operator, you're confused as if you should be expecting tips from clients. And you feel uncomfortable, and it's sort of the source of memes on the internet right now, where, people turn around the screen and expect you to tip, and it's everywhere now. Everywhere that you pay with your card, they flip the Square terminal or similar around, and it's asking for a tip, and sometimes those suggested tips are super high for the service being provided. And that was another thing mentioned in the study, was that people felt that the suggested tip amounts were too high if it was an area that they weren't expecting to tip, such as a restaurant. If you've made it this far into the video, you probably have a good idea of what my opinion is on tipping in general and tipping in the car detailing industry. So as an owner-operator, I feel very strongly about no tipping in my business. As a matter of fact, tipping is turned off as a function in every one of my payment processing types, whether it's Square or QuickBooks or all of the other invoicing software. I take any form of payment. If a client wants to pay me, I take I take it, whatever is convenient for them. The only way that you can tip me, and I'm very vocal about telling my clients that I don't expect, nor do I want your tips. The only way to tip me is to physically bring me cash because that's the only thing that I can't stop you from doing. So, my software will not allow you to overpay. It won't allow you to really tip me. And I do that because as an owner-operator and really as a business owner, I don't want my clients to feel pressured. I don't want them to feel any of those negative emotions that you saw in the statistics. And that leads to a better overall experience. I don't want somebody to think about, okay, well, this is XYZ cost for this service, and we primarily do ceramic coating and paint protection foam here. I don't want somebody to have to, in their head, mentally calculate, okay, here's the total cost, but don't forget, we got to tip the detailer. I don't want that. It's uncomfortable. I don't want you to have to think about it. I don't want my clients finding this video on YouTube, Googling, should I tip my car detailer? And that's probably how you're going to find this video. Maybe that's going to be how you find this video. But I don't want somebody to feel that negative emotion. So I charge my prices, and they're all inclusive. So what I tell you it costs is what it costs out the door. And I want you to be stress-free about making those payments without having to think about tipping. Now, as a detailer, if you're a detailer maybe, or you're a shop owner and you have detailers working for you, I'm not going to tell you how to run your business. But what I'll tell you personally is that I think that you should charge enough to make it worthwhile for your detailers to detail cars. I don't think that we should be charging a lower amount with the expectation that the client makes up the difference between what is right in our eyes and what we actually charge. And why is that? Because first of all, it leads things to chance. So people like stability in their life, they don't want uncertainty. So if you have employees that are trying to bring home a paycheck, you don't want to have to rely on the average amount of tips. You want to know how much money you're making. And, so we should be charging appropriately. Now, my guess, and this is my 2 cents, 5 cents adjusted for inflation, as I said earlier, is a lot of times if you're relying on that tipping to bridge a gap, it's probably because you feel uncomfortable about the pricing that you think you should be charging. So you should always charge the price that you know you need to survive, have your employees survive off of. And I feel as though many people probably are a little hesitant or worried or uncomfortable with that price gap. And so they may feel like I should be charging X, but I'm going to charge Y because if I charge X, people are going to be scared off by my pricing. But this pricing is the pricing that you need to keep your employees happy, to keep your bills paid, to keep you in business so they can keep coming back. There's a lot of businesses that go out in the first couple of years, and a lot of that is racing to the bottom pricing. So, as a client, if you're watching this, you probably want the cheapest price, but you also want your detailer to be around in a couple of years so they can always take care of your car. And you always want their employees to be happy. So, in my opinion, I don't think tipping should be done in car detailing at all. It's very rare exceptions, maybe, but for me, you can't tip me, all right? I do have somebody that works with me, and he does all of our videos of all the cars, and guess what? I pay him enough, and we don't have to rely on tipping. Now, clients have insisted in the past, and they brought cash. I generally discourage it. I've taken a couple tips over the course of a couple years, only because the clients were so insistent. But I never want anybody to come to my business and feel uncomfortable or feel like they have to tip. I don't want them to experience any of those fear of tipping or what's the appropriate amount. I hate that, and I think it should go away entirely. But here we are, and this is the tipping age. So I want you to tell me in the comments what is the weirdest place you've ever been asked to tip. Tell me your funny stories. I want you to tell me what place has made you feel the most uncomfortable, and I also want you to provide feedback on this video, and if you think that I'm right or I'm wrong, and if I'm right or I'm wrong, why or why not.